Mark Ward says his television was smashed after a fight with his roommate, who blamed him for getting fired. Jonathan Green argues he only lost his job because of Ward's reckless stash of marijuana, and now he's firing back with a countersuit demanding $1,550.
See, I've got Mr. Mark Ward here as my plaintiff, suing for $425, as my defendant, Jonathan Green, but you are countersuing, I see, sir, for $1,550. All right, I'll start with you, Mr. Ward. Why are we in court today?
We're in court today because I'm suing my former roommate for breaking my TV.
Okay, so that's the $425 value?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and how did he break it, sir?
So it started, a scuffle ensued once he came home after a corporate event that he was attending. He started accusing me, claiming I was responsible for getting him fired from his job. The argument started verbally, then transpired into a bit of a physical altercation, and next thing I know, we're pushing one another until I get pushed into a coffee stand which had the TV on top. I knock the coffee stand and the TV falls face first onto the ground. Okay,
now do you have any offering of proof? Let me see a receipt, let me see what the TV looks like, any of that? Thank you, sir. I do like a person that's prepared. Yep, right. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see this is the cost of the television. This is, oh, that's the actual television. No bueno. I guess what's missing, and I'll get this from you, Mr. Green, what led to y'all throwing hands on each other?
Well, Your Honor, it all came back to when he actually lent me his suit jacket for a retirement party that I was attending that my company was throwing. So I went to the event, everything was going great, and it was like an indoor-outdoor venue, and just kind of out of nowhere, it started raining. And I was standing right next to my boss at the time, so I kind of offered my jacket just so that she wouldn't get too wet. And once we got inside, I shook the jacket off of all the rain, and that's when a bag of weed actually fell out of the pocket right in front of my boss and in front of, you know, all the executives and everybody that was there.
Okay. Do you still have a job?
No, I do not. She
Wait, she fired you?
Yes, she fired me right there when I walked in on Monday morning.
Wow. Okay, so you go home upset because you now no longer have a job.
Right, and it took me a while to kind of get that job. I'm a freelance graphic designer.
Okay.
And, you know, to get something kind of permanent and full-time is a little rare in my field. So I was very bummed out when I lost that job.
Yeah, and unfortunately it's going to get more and more rare with artificial intelligence creeping into everybody's day-to-day.
Right.
Okay, so you lose your job. Wow, hate that. And then you confront the roommate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
yes.
What'd you say?
Well, when I initially walked into the apartment, I saw he was just, you know, sitting there watching TV, and I walked in.
That TV? Well, he won't be watching that anymore.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
I walk in and I say, hey, you know where your weed is? You know, you kind of lost it. It's not there anymore. And I was just trying to get to the bottom of, you know, why he had left his weed in the jacket that he lent me.
Today on our channel, we witness a tense and shocking legal showdown between two former roommates whose friendship has exploded into accusations, property damage, and counterclaims in a dispute over a shattered television and a lost job. The air is thick with anger, resentment, and broken trust as both men bring their stories before a no-nonsense judge. The plaintiff believes his damaged TV is undeniable proof of wrongdoing, while the defendant argues his career was ruined by a careless mistake. This is not just a small claims battle. It is a window into how quickly everyday conflicts can spiral into courtrooms, reputations, and livelihoods on the line. Our viewers are about to see tempers flare, excuses unravel, and credibility questioned. Watch carefully as this drama begins, because every detail matters and the judge will dissect it all in real time.
Knowing that I was going to a professional party event.
Now, I do have a question. He lent you the jacket, but I want to make sure that he gave the jacket to you, not you went in his closet and just pulled the jacket.
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, I walked up to him. I was like, hey, you know, I need a jacket.
So he picked which jacket to give you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, and what happened? You forgot it was in there?
Spur of the moment, I had forgotten after previously purchasing some cannabis and leaving it in the jacket. I put it back into my closet after I was done smoking a joint out on the balcony. I was watching TV when he asked me for the jacket, so I was pretty eager to get back to my program. So I just ran into my closet, grabbed the first thing I saw, and handed it over to him.
Were you inebriated at the time?
A little bit, Your Honor.
Thanks for your honesty. Okay. I figured you might have been. Okay. Got it. Okay, so let me go to you then, Mr. Plaintiff. How does it go from he's upset, he comes in, bro, you had me looking crazy, my boss fired me. How does it get physical?
Yeah, so he basically comes at me very aggressive, throwing accusations around, saying I was responsible for him getting fired. But one thing he forgot to mention to you is that this was his third warning. He had had 2 prior warnings, so I didn't necessarily feel as guilty as I probably would have if this had been the first instance of him getting in trouble with his boss. But I really didn't take too kindly to being thrown under the bus for something that I felt wasn't my fault. The person I am, I assume responsibility for anything that I do. I wish he would feel the same way.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
Now, he said something interesting, Mr. Green, which is that this was your 3rd warning. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. The other 2 times kind of were a little out of my control.
But basically, I didn't take too kindly to him throwing these accusations around. He kept coming at me, getting a little closer. I put my hands up to try to defuse the situation, which I'm assuming he perceived as me getting ready to throw hands. So one thing leads to another. He starts pushing me. I'm a little upset. I start pushing him back, and next thing I know, I get shoved pretty hard into the coffee table, resulting in the TV falling face first on the ground.
Okay, but thank God you didn't get hurt and you didn't get physically hurt.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm seeing here this is 1,550. You're saying this is your gross total for a week's worth of work?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and so you're suing him for this because you got fired and you want him to pay your last week's work?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, he said something interesting, Mr. Green, which is that this was your 3rd warning. Is that true?
As the testimony continues, the tension builds and the stakes get higher. The plaintiff lays out his story of a simple evening turning violent, a scuffle, a shove, a coffee stand toppling, and a television crashing face first onto the ground, but beneath the surface lies more than broken electronics. This is about responsibility, about truth versus blame. The defendant's frustration is boiling over because he believes this incident cost him his career, yet the judge is laser-focused on facts, not feelings. Each question slices deeper, exposing contradictions and forgotten details, and you can almost sense that the ruling will not go the way one side expects. This is the turning point where stories collide and the courtroom becomes a stage for raw emotions.
Yes, that is true. But the other 2 times kind of were a little out of my control.
Okay, let's not glaze over it. What were the first 2 warnings, sir?
Well, the first one, I was actually late to work. The night before,
I'm not interested in the excuse. Okay, so you were late to work 1 time. Number 2.
And then the second one was the client that I was working with. They kept going back and forth with me, and they said that I, just wasn't fit for the job, and that I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what they wanted, and they really just kind of complained a lot about me to my supervisors. So that's what led to the
That was strike 2, and then you were at a company event and a dime bag fell out, and so that's strike 3. Got it. Okay. Before I make my ruling, I want to get a little more clarity about this actual fist fight that took place in the apartment. Do you admit, sir, that you initiated the physical confrontation?
I wouldn't say I initiated it, really, because I would say I initiated the verbal confrontation that we got into, but we were just having it out, and then all of a sudden he kind of just throws his hands up. So my instincts just went in. I defended myself. I just kind of pushed him away a little bit just to get away from it, and then that's when we really just started going at it after that.
So at that point, it was a full-on fight.
I wouldn't say a full-on fight. There weren't any fists, but it was just a lot of shoving and just trying to, we were both very angry.
So y'all was acting like y'all was on the schoolyard. Okay,
right.
Got it. Two grown men pushing and pulling. Okay, so but you do contend that that is what ultimately led to him falling on this coffee table and shattering that television, as the court saw?
Yes, Your Honor.
The pushing and okay. All right, gentlemen, I think I'm prepared to rule in this matter. Here's the deal. I can tell you, I'm actually going to start in reverse. I'm going to start with this counterclaim. I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mr. Green, and it's simple. I was surprised when you told me that you were fired as a result of this marijuana conspicuously falling out of this dress coat, only because that seemed to be a severe punishment. I understand that's not a good thing, and I'll get to you in a second, Mr. Ward. It's not a good thing to have a bag of marijuana falling out of a workplace event, but to go from that to firing sounded severe, right? So then I hear that there's not one but two prior demerits in your professional capacity.
Here the hidden backstory finally bursts into. The open revealing a borrowed jacket, a company event, and a bag of marijuana tumbling out at the worst possible moment. The defendant's anger starts to make sense, yet the plaintiff's negligence also looks more serious than he first admitted. This is where the case transforms from a petty roommate dispute into a full-blown, life-changing confrontation. The judge probes each man's choices with surgical precision, exposing past warnings, mistakes, and a pattern of irresponsibility. Viewers can feel the room tighten as both men try to control the narrative, but the facts keep slipping through their fingers. The audience should be asking who is truly at fault and what consequences will fall hardest when the verdict comes.
That are on you, sir. So ultimately, the reason you were fired is not because of any negligence that he may or may not have contributed, which I will get to, but really this is a cumulative effort of you just failing to show up properly at work. So you got to eat that. So the court dismisses your counterclaim. Now let's get to the primary claim. The fact that you were inebriated, Mr. Ward, does give me concern. Not because I care what you do in your own house, that's fine, but your judgment was impaired. He let you know it was a professional workplace event. That should have alarmed a sense of extra duty, I'm going to say, for you to say, let me make sure my man is good. Let me make sure that I'm putting him in best position. The fact that you forgot the weed was there, I'm sure you did just forget, and we are all human and are inclined to simple mistakes. But I am kind of wrestling with how to reconcile that part. Now, as for the fight, people make mistakes. I would also be upset and mad if such a mistake made me look bad to my employer. I would especially be mad if I got fired. But as I've already kind of broken down to you, Mr. Green, you can't really put your firing on this man. You can put strike 3 on him, but I don't think strike 3 is worthy of the level of proportionality in which you came into the house ranting and raving and pushing and shoving to the point where this led to a shove that knocked this man's TV down. Okay? Mr. Ward, I think you've got to be a little more alert and a little more intentional when you are engaging with somebody around their career. When someone says, hey, man, I got to do something for work, you kind of need to straighten up and fly right. But I don't believe what was likely simple negligence on your part to make sure that the marijuana was not present. I don't think it is enough to account for the aggressive way in which this ultimately landed for your TV. I'm going to find in your favor. I'm going to find in favor of the plaintiff to the tune of $425. Hope you figure out a way to pay this young man. And just next time when you're already on thin ice at work, find your own dress code. Take your own responsibility to show up at work how you need to, because you're right, young man, this job market is not for the faint of heart, and I want to see people win. That's my ruling.
Judge Ebony has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $425.
I just wish we could have avoided this outside of court. Maybe we could still be friends.
Yeah, man, whatever. I just don't want to see you anymore.
We have reached the moment of reckoning where every testimony, every excuse, and every detail collide under the judge's final analysis. This is no longer about friendship or even money. It is about accountability and learning hard lessons. The defendant's counterclaim hangs by a thread as the judge weighs his history of warnings against the plaintiff's careless mistake. The plaintiff, meanwhile, hopes for justice for his broken television, but may also face criticism for his impaired judgment during the event. Viewers can almost hear the silence in the room as the ruling forms in the judge's mind. And when it drops, it will be swift, firm, and eye-opening. This is the conclusion of a cautionary tale about trust, responsibility, and the price of ignoring red flags. And that wraps up today's shocking courtroom battle. One broken friendship, one shattered television, and one hard lesson delivered by the judge. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe, because the next case is even more unbelievable and you definitely do not want to miss it.